He-Jin stood at the entrance of the Galactic Academy of Sciences, her hands gripping the straps of her backpack. The massive crystal building rose high into the purple sky of Centauri Prime. Around her, students of different alien species walked past, some floating, others crawling, and a few using anti-gravity devices to move. She took a deep breath and walked forward. Her simple black uniform looked plain compared to the shimmering biosuits of her alien classmates. Her short black hair and average height made her look even more ordinary among the colorful and tall alien students. "Is that a human?" a voice whispered as she passed. "They're letting anyone in these days," another voice added with a laugh. He-Jin kept walking, her face calm. She had expected this reaction. Humans were still new to the galactic community, and many alien species thought they were too primitive for advanced education. In her first class, Advanced Quantum Physics, He-Jin sat in the back row. The teacher, Professor Yuna, a tall alien with silver skin, introduced her to the class. "We have a new student joining us today. He-Jin from Earth. She received the highest scores in her entrance exams." The class turned to look at her. Some students made clicking sounds of disbelief. Others simply ignored her. But one student, Du Young, a blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, spoke up. "Professor, are you sure there wasn't a mistake? Humans can barely understand basic space travel. How could one pass our entrance exam?" The class laughed. Professor Yumna raised a hand for silence. "The exam results are correct. Now, let's begin today's lesson." During the practical exercise, students had to create small quantum fields. He-Jin worked quietly at her station. Her hands moved with practiced ease over the controls, but she deliberately made small mistakes. Not enough to fail, but enough to seem average. Do Young walked past her station with his friends. "Look at how she struggles with basic quantum manipulation. Humans are so primitive." They probably let her in to show how inclusive the academy is. He-Jin's fingers paused for a moment over the controls. She could easily show them her real skills. Skills learned not in a classroom, but in the heat of battle. Skills that had saved thousands of lives. But that wasn't her mission. At lunch, He-Jin sat alone in the massive dining hall. The ceiling showed a real-time view of space, with stars and nearby planets floating above. She ate her food slowly, watching other students gather in groups. Some used telepathy to chat, others communicated through color changes or pheromones. A quiet student named Jae-ho, who had gray skin and cat-like eyes, sat at a nearby table. Unlike the others, he watched He-Jin with curiosity rather than mockery. She noticed his attention but pretended not to see. At the end of the day, He-Jin walked back to her small room in the student housing complex. She locked the door and sat at her desk. Taking out a small device, she recorded a message. "Day 1 at the academy complete. Cover remains secure. No signs of Scarlet Armada activity detected. Continuing observation." She deleted the message immediately and changed into simple, sleek clothes. Tomorrow would be another day of pretending to be less than she was. Another day of hiding her combat reflexes, her strategic mind, and her years of battlefield experience. As she lay in bed, He-Jin smiled slightly. Let them think she was just a primitive human. Let them underestimate her. After all, that's what had made humans so successful in the war. No one ever saw them coming. The stars outside her window twinkled, reminding her of the battlefield where she had earned her highest medals. Medals now locked away in a secure facility, along with her real identity. Here, she was just another student, enduring ridicule to complete her mission. She closed her eyes, knowing that someday they would all understand. But until then, Captain He-Jin of the Human Special Operations Division would continue playing the role of a simple student, watching and waiting. A week had passed since He-Jin started at the Galactic Academy. The morning started with combat simulation class, a required course for all students. Professor Yuna stood before the class in the large training room, its walls lined with advanced holographic projectors. Today, we will practice basic evasive maneuvers, Professor Yuna announced. The simulator will create energy projectiles. Your task is to avoid them. The students lined up. Du Young went first, his 4 arms helping him move with impressive speed. He dodged most of the projectiles, earning applause from his classmates. Excellent performance, Professor Yuna said. He-jin, you're next. He-jin stepped into the simulation area. The projectile started slowly at first. She moved with deliberate awkwardness, letting 2 hit her protective shield. But when 3 projectiles came at once from different angles, her body reacted on instinct. She performed a perfect role, something that came from years of real combat experience. The class fell silent. Du Young's eyes narrowed. That was unexpected, Professor Yuna said, studying He-jin carefully. He-jin quickly stumbled on her next move, making it look like the roll had been pure luck. I watched a lot of action movies, she said with an embarrassed smile. Later, in advanced weapons technology class, the students worked on analyzing different energy weapon designs. He-jin sat at her workstation, carefully making sure her analysis contained small errors that any civilian might make. Du Young approached her station with his friends, having trouble understanding the basic principles. He asked loudly, "Here on Centauri Prime, children learn this in elementary school." He-jin looked at the weapon diagram on her screen. She could name every component, knew exactly how to modify it for maximum efficiency, and had used similar weapons in 12 different battles. Instead, she said, "Thank you for your concern. This is all very new to me." During lunch, Jiho approached her table. He sat down without asking, his cat-like eyes studying her with interest. "That role you did in combat class," he said quietly. "That wasn't from watching movies." He-jin kept her face neutral. "Everyone gets lucky sometimes." "Luck doesn't explain your calluses," Jiho replied. "Those come from weapons training." Before He-jin could respond, an alarm blared through the academy. Emergency protocols initiated. All students report to safety stations. He-jin watched as panic spread through the dining hall. Most students rushed toward the exits in disorder. Without thinking, she stood on a table and spoke in a commanding voice she usually kept hidden. "Everyone stay calm. Form lines based on your evacuation zones. Help those who need assistance." Surprisingly, students obeyed her instructions. Even Du Young found himself following her directions. Professor Yuna arrived moments later, looking pleased to find the students evacuating in an orderly manner. It turned out to be a false alarm, triggered by a malfunction in the security system. As students returned to their classes, Du Young confronted He-jin in the hallway. "Who do you think you are, giving orders like that?" he demanded. "I just remembered the evacuation procedures from orientation." He-jin replied softly, but they both knew that wasn't in any orientation. That evening, He-jin sent another encrypted message. "Cover possibly compromised. Student Jiho shows unusual perception. Request guidance." The response came quickly. "Maintain current cover. Scarlet Armada activity detected in nearby systems. Your presence at the academy is now crucial." He-jin deleted both messages and looked out her window at the setting suns of Centauri Prime. Her combat instincts told her that something big was coming. For now, she would continue playing the role of the struggling human student, but she made sure her hidden combat suit was charged and ready. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new chances to be underestimated. But He-jin knew that soon, very soon, her true identity would be needed. The xenobiology laboratory hummed with activity as students worked on their term projects. He-jin stood at her workstation, carefully monitoring the growth of specialized defense bacteria. This project would count for half their grade this semester. Professor Yuna walked between the stations, observing each student's work. "Remember," she said, "these bacteria are highly sensitive. One wrong move could destroy weeks of research." He-jin knew this all too well. She had worked with similar bacteria during the war, developing protective strains for human colonies. But here, she was just another student, making careful notes and double-checking every step. Do Young watched her from his station, his forearms moving quickly as he worked. He whispered to his friends, and they nodded with smirks on their faces. He-jin noticed, but kept working. During the lunch break, while He-jin was away, Do Young and his friends entered the lab. They adjusted the temperature controls on her containment unit by 2 degrees, enough to stress the bacteria without killing them immediately. They thought this would ruin her project slowly, making it look like a student's mistake. When He-jin returned, she noticed the change immediately. Her military-grade sensors, disguised as a simple bracelet, detected the temperature shift. She looked at her bacteria through the microscope and saw the early signs of stress. Standing quietly at her station, He-jin faced a choice. She could either let her project fail, maintaining her cover, or save it using her real knowledge. The decision was made for her when she noticed something else. The temperature change had created a dangerous mutation in one bacterial strain. Without hesitation, He-jin activated the containment protocols. Her fingers flew over the controls with practiced precision. She isolated the dangerous strain, adjusted the environmental settings, and began emergency stabilization procedures. Professor Yuna rushed over. "What are you doing?" The temperature change created a K7 level mutation. He-jin explained, forgetting to hide her expertise. If not contained, it could spread through the air filtration system. The professor's eyes widened. K7 mutations were classified information, not taught to students. "How did you know?" He-jin realized her mistake but couldn't stop now. She worked through the night, using advanced containment techniques that only trained military scientists knew. By morning, she had not only contained the threat, but also saved her project. Do Young arrived early, expecting to find He-jin's project ruined. Instead, he found her calmly working, her bacteria colonies healthier than ever. Professor Yuna stood nearby, watching He-jin with new interest. "Impossible," Do Young said. "How did you?" "Perhaps," Professor Yuna interrupted. "You would like to explain why the temperature controls were changed, Do Young." Jai-ho, who had arrived early too, spoke up. "I saw them enter the lab during lunch yesterday." Do Young's face turned a deeper shade of blue. We were just." "Report to the academic board," Professor Yuna ordered. Now, after they left, Jai-ho approached He-jin. "Those containment procedures you used," he said quietly. "They're the same ones used during the Proxima Centauri crisis." He-jin met his gaze steadily. "You seem to know a lot about military protocols." "My father served in that war," Jai-ho replied. "He told me stories about a human captain who saved 3 colonies using similar techniques." He paused. "A captain named He-jin." Before she could respond, the Academy's emergency alert system activated. "Attention all students. Unknown vessels detected in nearby space. All classes are suspended until further notice." He-jin looked at her workstation screen, which showed the approaching ships. She recognized their energy signatures immediately. The Scarlet Armada had arrived sooner than expected. Her cover was compromised, but that didn't matter anymore. Soon, the Academy would need Captain He-jin far more than it needed a pretend student. The Academy's hallways filled with nervous chatter as students watched the emergency broadcasts. The unknown vessels moved closer to Centauri Prime, their intentions unclear. Security officers rushed through the corridors, preparing defense systems. He-jin stood in Professor Yuna's office alongside Jai-ho and several senior staff members. The professor looked at He-jin with knowing eyes. "Perhaps," Professor Yuna said, "it is time to stop pretending." He-jin straightened her posture, instantly transforming from a timid student to a military commander. "The ships belong to the Scarlet Armada," she said, her voice carrying the authority of experience. "They are not here for negotiations." The door opened, and Do Young burst in, his blue face pale with fear. "Professor, my father sent a message. These ships, they destroyed 3 outposts last week. No survivors." Jin activated her bracelet, which transformed into a military-grade computer. "The Academy's defenses are strong but outdated," she said, displaying detailed scans. "The Armada will break through in less than 2 hours." "Who are you really?" Du Young asked, his earlier arrogance replaced by confusion. "Captain He Jin, Human Special Operations Division," she replied, not looking up from her scans. "I was placed here to protect the Academy's quantum research facility. The Armada wants the new weapon designs." Professor Yuna pressed a button on her desk. Hidden panels in the walls opened, revealing advanced weapons. "We anticipated this day might come." "What are your orders, Captain?" He Jin quickly organized the defense. She assigned Jae-ho to coordinate student evacuations, recognizing his tactical thinking. Du Young, with his 4 arms and quick reflexes, was put in charge of distributing emergency equipment. "The research facility is hidden beneath the xenobiology labs," He Jin explained, pulling up building schematics. "We need to move all essential data to secure servers and destroy the rest." Students who had mocked her days before now listened intently as she outlined emergency protocols. Her knowledge of combat strategies and defensive systems left no doubt about her credentials. "The Armada uses neural disruptors," she warned. "They target specific brain patterns. Humans are naturally resistant, but most alien species are vulnerable. Everyone must wear these protective helmets." As they prepared, He Jin received an encrypted message. "Reinforcements 6 hours away. Protect the facility at all costs." She looked at the scared faces around her and made a decision. "Professor, begin the evacuation. Any student who wishes to leave should go now. Those who stay will be under my command." To everyone's surprise, Du Young stepped forward. "I request permission to stay, Captain. I need to make up for my previous behavior." "Granted," He Jin said. "But understand, this isn't a simulation. Real combat is nothing like our training exercises." They worked quickly to fortify the Academy. He Jin taught them how to set up energy barriers and showed them basic combat moves that had saved her life many times. As they worked, Jae-ho approached her. "The evacuation is complete. 300 students chose to stay and fight." He Jin nodded, checking her weapon systems. The Academy's grand halls, once filled with academic discussions, now resembled a military base. Students from different species worked together, their previous prejudices forgotten in the face of real danger. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of purple and red. He Jin stood at the window, watching the approaching ships. She had hoped to maintain her cover longer, to prevent exactly this situation. But now that the moment had come, she felt a strange relief. "They're starting their approach," she announced. "Everyone to their positions. Remember your training. We hold this line, no matter what comes." The first explosions lit up the sky, and Captain He Jin prepared to show her classmates exactly why humans had earned their reputation in the galaxy. The first wave of Scarlet Armada ships breached the Academy's outer defenses. Captain He Jin stood in the command center, formerly Professor Yuna's office, monitoring the situation through holographic displays. "Enemy forces have landed in sectors 3 and 4, Jae-ho reported, his voice steady despite the chaos. "They're using standard invasion protocols." He Jin smiled. "Good. That means they don't know we're ready for them." She activated the Academy-wide communication system. "All units, execute Defense Pattern Alpha." The students, now organized into combat teams, moved with practiced precision. Du Young led his group to the eastern corridor, his 4 arms handling both shield generators and weapons. The past 6 hours of intensive training under He Jin's guidance had transformed these academic minds into a coordinated defense force. The first group of invaders, wearing black armor with red markings, entered through the main hall. They expected to find panicked students and teachers. Instead, they walked into a carefully planned ambush. Now, He Jin commanded through the communication system. Energy barriers activated, trapping the invaders in segments. Students positioned on the upper levels opened fire with stunning weapons. He-Jin had modified the Academy's teaching equipment into non-lethal but effective defense tools. The lead invader, seeing his forces outmaneuvered, spoke into his communicator. "This is impossible." The intelligence said this was an undefended academic facility. He-Jin's voice echoed through the hall. "Your intelligence was wrong." She stepped into view, now wearing her full combat suit, its black and silver armor a stark contrast to her former student uniform. "This facility is under the protection of the Human Special Operations Division." The invader stepped back. "The ghost of Proxima. Here." Professor Yuna, watching from the command center, turned to Jaiho. "The ghost of Proxima." During the war, Jaiho explained, a human captain single-handedly defended 3 colonies against the Scarlet Armada. The survivors said she appeared and disappeared like a ghost, always one step ahead of the enemy. They never knew her real name. In the main hall, He-Jin moved with incredible speed. Her combat training, no longer hidden, showed its full effectiveness. She disabled 3 attackers with precise strikes, her movements flowing like water. "All teams, report," she commanded, securing the fallen enemies. "East sector secured," Du Young responded. "Their weapons were no match for our barriers." "West sector clear," another student team reported. The modified sonic disruptors worked perfectly. He-Jin returned to the command center, her expression serious. This was too easy. They'll send their main force soon. She turned to Professor Yuna. "We need to move the quantum research data now. They must not get access to it." The building shook as larger ships approached. Through the windows, they could see massive battle cruisers taking position above the Academy. "Time for Phase 2, He-Jin announced. She pressed a button on her armor, and hidden defense turrets emerged from the Academy's decorative spires. "Professor, begin the data transfer. Everyone else, prepare for heavy assault. They won't underestimate us again." Do Young approached He-Jin, his earlier arrogance replaced with respect. "Captain, my team is ready for the next wave." She nodded. "Remember your training. Protection first, then precision. We're not soldiers, we're defenders. Our goal is to protect this facility and its people until reinforcements arrive." The sky turned red as the Scarlet Armada prepared their full assault. But inside the Academy, under He-Jin's leadership, fear had been replaced with determination. These students, who once mocked her for being human, now stood ready to fight alongside the legendary ghost of Proxima. The Scarlet Armada's main assault began with a thunderous roar. Hundreds of enemy soldiers poured into the Academy grounds. Inside, Captain He-Jin's voice remained calm over the communication system. "Remember your training. Protect each other. Work as one unit," she instructed. The students, now transformed into defenders, held their positions with remarkable discipline. Do Young commanded the eastern defense line, his 4 arms coordinating shield generators with expert precision. "Enemy forces approaching Sector 5, he reported. "They have heavy weapons." "Acknowledge," He-Jin responded. She turned to Professor Yuna in the command center. "How much longer for the data transfer?" 20 minutes minimum, the professor answered, her silver skin reflecting the red emergency lights. He-Jin made a quick decision. "Jaiho, take command here. I need to slow them down." She checked her combat suit's systems and headed for the front line. The enemy forces had breached the outer courtyard. Their commander, a tall figure in crimson armor, directed the assault. "Find the research facility," he ordered. "Kill anyone who resists." Suddenly, He-Jin appeared among them like a shadow. Her combat suit's stealth systems, combined with years of experience, made her nearly invisible. She moved through their ranks with lethal efficiency, disabling weapons and neutralizing soldiers. "It's the ghost," one soldier screamed. "She's here." Inside, the students watched their tactical displays in amazement. He-Jin appeared and disappeared across the battlefield, always striking where the enemy least expected. "Now I understand," Du Young said quietly. "This is why humans are feared in combat." The enemy commander, in rage, ordered his forces to concentrate fire on He-Jin's last known position, but she had already moved. The students used this distraction to strengthen their defenses and protect key areas. Captain Jaiho's voice came through the comm system. "They're deploying neural disruptors." He-Jin's voice replied immediately. "All alien students, activate your protective helmets. Humans, prepare to engage directly." The few other human students in the academy, who had been hiding their military training like He-Jin, stepped forward. They moved with similar skill, though none matched their captain's expertise. Professor Yuna watched the battle from the command center. "The data transfer is 70% complete," she reported. The enemy forces, frustrated by their lack of progress, began using explosives. The academy's ancient walls, reinforced by He-Jin's defensive preparations, held firm. "They're getting desperate," He-Jin observed, returning briefly to the command center. Her combat suit showed signs of battle but remained fully functional. "That's when they make mistakes." She was right. The enemy commander, losing patience, ordered a frontal assault on the main entrance. He-Jin had anticipated this. "Du Young, Jaiho, execute Maneuver Delta," she commanded. The two students, working in perfect coordination, activated hidden defense systems. Energy fields trapped the attacking forces, while modified sonic weapons rendered them unconscious. "Main entrance secured," Du Young reported proudly. "Enemy forces are retreating to regroup." He-Jin allowed herself a small smile. These students, who once doubted her abilities, now fought with the skill and courage of veteran defenders. They had learned more about real combat in these few hours than in all their previous training. "Captain," Jaiho called out. "Long-range sensors detect friendly ships approaching. Reinforcements will arrive in 30 minutes. "Then we hold for 30 minutes, He-Jin responded. She looked at her brave defenders, alien students who had chosen to stay and fight. "Prepare for their final assault. They know help is coming too. They'll throw everything at us now." The sky above the academy turned dark with enemy ships. The real test was about to begin. The final battle for the academy began as the sun started to set. The Scarlet Armada launched their ultimate assault, deploying everything they had left. Captain He-Jin stood at the academy's highest point, watching the enemy forces advance. "Data transfer complete," Professor Yuna announced through the communication system. "All research is secure." "Understood," He-Jin replied. She opened a channel to all defenders. "The enemy knows they have only minutes before reinforcements arrive. They will be desperate. Stay focused. Remember your training." The enemy commander's voice boomed across the battlefield. "Surrender now, Ghost of Proxima. We know who you are. We know what you did at the Battle of New Eden." Du Young, manning his defense position, looked confused. "New Eden? But that battle is classified. No one knows what happened there." He-Jin's voice came through clearly. "Let me tell you what happened at New Eden." She kept speaking as she moved into position, her combat suit blending with the shadows. The Scarlet Armada attacked a colony of 10,000 civilians. They expected no resistance. Instead, they found one human soldier. The enemy forces advanced closer. He-Jin continued her story. "That soldier held the line for 3 days without sleep, protected the civilians while they evacuated, used every trick, every strategy, every bit of strength to keep the enemy back." Her voice grew stronger. "That soldier watched friends die, felt bones break, but never stopped fighting." The students listened, understanding finally dawning on their faces. This was why humans had earned their place in the galaxy. When reinforcements finally arrived, He-Jin said, they found 3,000 enemy soldiers defeated, and one human standing guard over the evacuation ships. That human was me. The enemy commander screamed in rage. "Kill her. Kill them all." But He-Jin was ready. As the enemy charged, she activated her final defense plan. Hidden devices throughout the academy grounds powered up. A massive energy field appeared, separating the attackers into small, manageable groups. Now, she commanded. The students struck with everything they had learned. Du Young's team disabled weapons with precise shots. Jai Ho's group deployed sonic disruptors. Other teams used the Academy's architecture to their advantage, just as He Jin had taught them. Professor Yuna's voice cut through the battle noise. Captain, your military record is displaying on all Academy screens. The students, they need to see this. The screen showed He Jin's full service history, youngest captain in human history, 37 major battles, 12 colonies saved, highest awards for bravery from 17 different species. The enemy commander, seeing his forces falling, targeted He Jin directly. He fired a specialized weapon designed to penetrate combat suits. Captain, look out, Du Young shouted. He Jin moved with incredible speed, but not to dodge. She positioned herself to protect a group of students, taking the hit in her shoulder. Her combat suit sparked but held. No more running, she said, facing the commander. No more hiding. Your forces threaten my students. That was your final mistake. The battle that followed became instant legend at the Academy. Students watched as He Jin demonstrated why she was called the Ghost of Proxima. Her movements were perfect, her strategies flawless. The commander never stood a chance. As the last enemy forces fell, the sky filled with friendly ships. Reinforcements had arrived. The Academy was safe. Do Young approached He Jin, who was getting her shoulder treated. Why did you let us mock you? Why pretend to be less than you are? He Jin smiled. Because true strength isn't about proving yourself to others. It's about being ready when people need you most. The sun rose over the Academy, marking the end of the longest night in its history, and the beginning of a new understanding between humans and aliens. 1 month after the battle, the Galactic Academy of Sciences had been fully repaired. The morning sun shone through the crystal walls, reflecting off the new memorial that stood in the main courtyard. A simple statue showing figures of different species standing together. Captain He Jin, now wearing her official military uniform, walked through the familiar halls. Students stopped to salute her, not out of fear or regulation, but out of genuine respect. She had been asked to remain at the Academy as both a teacher and security advisor. In the newly rebuilt combat training room, He Jin watched as Do Young led a mixed group of students through defense exercises. His forearms moved with practiced grace as he demonstrated the techniques she had taught during the battle. Remember, Du Young told his students, strength comes in many forms. Never judge someone by their species or appearance. Professor Yun Ah approached He Jin, her silver skin gleaming. The Academy Board has approved your proposal for the new interspecies combat training program. You will have full authority to implement it as you see fit. He Jin nodded. Thank you, Professor. Though I suspect you helped convince them. They needed little convincing after seeing your training methods in action, the professor replied. The students who fought that night show remarkable improvement in all their studies. They learned more than just combat skills. In the dining hall, the seating arrangement had changed dramatically. Species that once separated themselves now sat together, sharing stories and experiences. Ji Ho sat at a central table, explaining tactical theory to a group of fascinated first-year students. Captain, Ji Ho called out when he saw her. Would you tell them about the Battle of New Eden? The real version, not the classified one. He Jin sat down among the students. The real lesson of New Eden wasn't about one soldier fighting an army, she explained. It was about understanding that true victory comes from protecting others, not defeating enemies. Later that day, He Jin stood before her first official class. The room was packed with students from every species in the Academy. Even some professors had come to observe. Combat training isn't about learning to fight, she began. It's about learning to think clearly under pressure, about understanding your own strengths and respecting the strengths of others. Do Young raised his hand. Captain, is it true that the human military command wants you back on active duty? Yes, He Jin answered honestly, but I've declined. My place is here now. The next generation needs to learn what we discovered during the battle, that we are stronger together than apart. After class, He-Jin walked to her office, formerly her small student room. The walls now displayed both her military honors and her academy teaching credentials. A knock at the door revealed a nervous-looking Do-young. "Captain," he said formally, "I want to apologize again for how I treated you when you first arrived." He-Jin smiled. "Do-young, you've apologized every week for a month. Your actions during the battle, and your dedication to teaching others, have more than made up for it." "Thank you," he replied. "But I have one question. You knew about the Scarlet Armada's coming attack. Why did you let us mock you instead of just revealing your identity?" "Because," He-Jin explained, "some lessons can't be taught. They have to be learned through experience. You all needed to understand that greatness can come from anywhere, and that appearances can be deceiving." As the sun set over the academy, He-Jin looked out her window at the students practicing in the courtyard. Humans and aliens worked together, learning from each other's strengths. The academy had changed, and with it, perhaps the galaxy would too. In the end, her mission to protect the academy had succeeded in ways no one had expected, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through understanding, respect, and the courage to look beyond surface differences. The ghost of Proxima had found a new purpose, teaching the next generation that the greatest battles are won not with weapons, but with wisdom.